Hello, everybody, and happy Asian Pacific American Heritage Month.
Yay!
Yay! And here with me is Leo, and I specifically asked him here because we're going to be talking about music. And a lot of you may wonder, like, oh, what does music have to do with this channel? Because you only sung once and it sucked. And, and...
Say that, Chris.
Thank you. And you usually talk about social justice. What does music have to do with social justice? And I wanted to talk about music because music was one of the few ways that I could easily connect with my homeland. I'm wondering if the same was with you.
I mean, I grew up in Beijing, so it was like kind of the music that surrounded me.
Yeah.
And I was actually talking to my girlfriend in the car over actually, and she was saying like how she wished she had made more of an effort to like be connected to that music because her growing up in America it was a bit stigmatized.
Yeah, it is.
So like she actually made almost like a bit of a conscious effort to like, you know, push that back because it was so stigmatized and seen as like, you know, not cool,
right,
and everything. And I feel like really lucky that I grew up with a lot of, you know, other like Chinese like or like Asian kids in general, where we were like, yeah, like Mando pop, C pop,
yeah,
like the stuff is amazing. You know, I had a lot of friends that watched C dramas and K dramas, and that was a lot of the stuff they listened to too. And now that I'm in America, I do feel that kind of stigma a bit.
Yeah.
Too. And then so when I like shuffle through my iPod and like an old Chinese song comes up, you know, like the song, you know, we sang, you know, stuff like Jay Chou, JJ Lin, kind of these huge figures in the C-pop scene. It just really it takes me back.
Yeah.
Because it just reminded me like me growing up, like long car rides to the city for lessons or whatever. I'd just be on my iPod listening to a lot of C-pop. So
do you still actively listen?
Not as actively. I just don't listen to as much music casually anymore. Because now usually when I'm in a car, I'm like with friends, so we just end up talking or like listening to their music. Karaoke every now and then. if you can go to the right place, like say a Chinese karaoke place with the right friends that grew up listening to a lot of Chinese music.
It's magic.
Yeah, and then like I have friends who like, yeah, when their like Chinese song comes on, it like they're shy normally, but it doesn't matter because it just like transforms them. And
yeah,
it's so much fun singing the song, and like it's a cool way to like bond with people. Really, like when I find out like people listen to the same like C-pop songs I did growing up, immediately it just feels like familiar, and it feels like right, you know. It's
so funny that you mentioned karaoke because Asia does karaoke right.
Right.
Like they take it so seriously,
yeah.
right? Like the lounges are so nice, and like it's not even that much money, and like the food that they serve is good too.
Right. It's an industry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I would love to run a karaoke place in Taiwan. It was amazing. Yeah, like it's something that I would always do. Like when I went to Taiwan, and it was so fun because I think one of the most special moments that I have with my extended family that live in Taiwan is going to a KTV place, ordering fried chicken and boba,
yes.
and then like kind of almost surprising them by showing them that I know like a few songs.
Yeah, so true.
It's a really, really special moment, I think, like, because music is like a universal language, and like it was a very, very connected moment for me. I think what really got me into like Mando pop and C-pop was a drama called Smiling Pasta starring Cindy Wang and Nicholas Teo.
I think something that's always connected me to like Chinese music, it's like the melodies are so beautiful and they're always like really romantic.
Very romantic. You know?
And like,
very romantic.
It's just like if you translate some of the lyrics for these like really romantic Mando pop songs into English, you'd be like, oh no, that's so cheesy. Like,
yeah, it is.
Like, why would you say that in a song?
I've tried to like, you know, I think so many people that are into like non-English pop have tried to like translate it into like English, and it usually doesn't sound good.
Right. It's like for some reason, at least, I mean, I can only speak on like Chinese, like, you know, Mandarin, but something about how it sounds, like I know exactly what it's saying, exactly how cheesy the meaning is, but like combined with the melody and like, you know, the way the instrumentation works into it, and then like, you know, like the sappy music video, I'm just like,
oh my god,
you know, like it's so,
to some degree, the only kind of representation I could see of directly my identity, because like I think before I discovered like Mando pop and C-pop, I was like playing Japanese games.
Right.
I was listening to J-pop, and I was like watching anime, and that was how I saw myself represented.
Right.
And like, because it was so sparse for me, like that was one of the ways that I felt represented, even though like it was a different country. It was the closest that I could get.
Exactly. Yeah. I've heard a lot of friends growing up in America like feel the same way too.
Mm-hmm. But talking about the representation thing, I think it's also interesting, like, because I was at the Asian Film Festival here in LA.
Oh, you want to Lapith? That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
And one of the Chinese producers that were there speaking, she made a really great point of like how I think artists like APAHM, he originally like tried to have a career here,
Right.
but because like literally no one wanted him,
Yeah.
because he's Asian and just because of his identity, he had to go and find success in Taiwan and in China.
That's like a really standard thing right now. A lot of like Asian entertainers and stuff, they go abroad seeking opportunities because like even though they're like, oh, obviously you're different because you're Asian American and you may not know the language as well or be like as steeped in like the culture as like the people that grew up there were, but like they won't discriminate because of how you look.
There's at least like this almost like appreciation of like, oh, you're different.
Yeah.
Because you're Asian American and you're not like Asian.
Yeah, and that's like kind of been an advantage, and also like you're more seen on the actual merit of your art or your talent or your performance.
Right.
And that like, you know, your parents doesn't hinder you. So, and like, you know, Wally Hong went abroad and like just absolutely blew up, you know, like he's Asian American.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know if you've heard of this guy called Khalil Fong.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so he's like, he speaks perfect English. I think he like grew up in Hawaii or something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that. But
right.
like he's like Asian American, you know, and he's like super talented guy, and he went abroad like to Hong Kong and stuff, and like has been having a career there. And I think he's still playing and like writing.
Yeah.
And he's like one of my favorite artists now.
Mm-hmm.
And like for a long time I didn't know that, you know, he spoke English until I watched an interview of his, and he's spitting like perfect English, and I'm like, this is crazy. He's like me, you know.
Yeah.
And that was like really a groundbreaking moment.
It's groundbreaking, but it also feels like to me like, this is because I'm a pessimist. Like I feel also sad for these artists because it's like they obviously started off in America first because they wanted to do something here.
Yeah.
But like they almost had to like just kind of shed their American identity in order. I mean, like they're still American, so they're not shedding it necessarily. But it's like, as someone like, if I were an Asian American artist, I would want to like sing about being Asian, but in like an American context, just because that's how I grew up. Like it's the most authentic to like my background, as opposed to like I'm going to try to appeal to a market that I did not grow up in.
Right. And it's like a completely different thing, I realized, because like 2 summers ago I was like interning for like a Taiwanese record label, and they were like thinking about signing me, but like as an artist. And like what people don't realize, I think nowadays, is that a lot of artists don't always write their own music.
Right.
Like they're kind of like the image, but there's like a lot of people working behind the scenes to like help craft that image.
Right.
And you're really kind of like the puppet.
Right. Yeah.
Behind a lot of like, you know, like the industry stuff. And then like often you have very little control.
Yeah.
Creatively. So like a lot of people going abroad, like, yeah, again, like you said, they kind of shed their American identity because, well, you know, like Asians abroad, they don't identify with the ABC experience.
Yeah.
Or like things like that. So that's not seen as marketable.
Right.
So they're more marketed as like, oh, just an Asian pop star, as opposed to like, oh, they're an Asian pop star with a specific like history. So like a lot of the people I hang out with now, they're like, you know, indie musicians, because that's like how people retain kind of the authenticity and integrity of like their musical message. And then it's like the epitome of that is kind of like J. Cole and like, you know, Kendrick Lamar, like Beyonce, and like their like talent is so like amazing that
they don't
like,
need.
Yeah. But the reality for a lot of like, you know, smaller like musicians is that sometimes it's like harder, because like at the same time you want to maintain your integrity, but also like you're trying to eat.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you have like, say, like I have friends that write songs for like commercials and stuff, and obviously that's like not what they want to do, but at the same time it like pays well and like allows them to like, you know, have time later to maybe like write songs. So it's kind of this like compromise sometimes of your values. And if you can like get through that and like end up with like, you know, writing a lot of songs, becoming really good at writing songs that are not only like maintain your integrity, but also like appeal to the masses. That's like I mean, that's the goal of like
right, of
any
course.
artist, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a really hard thing that, you know, I really identify with, and a lot of the people I speak to that are like artists and like, you know, producing content are like that's like a really prevalent problem.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's like, so basically, like, we're all just trying to be Beyonce. Basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for watching. We both appreciate you so much, especially if you're Asian, because it's Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. So
rest of y'all are still cool though.
Be proud to be Asian.
Yeah.
This was part of another collab, and we sang a Jay Chou song. And I will leave the link to it somewhere. Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Proud.
Asians, let's go.
Cool. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me, Chris.